So today we're looking at the chapter 4 Actividades. Activity 1 is pretty simple. They have just given you some criteria, something like fastest to slowest, or highest to lowest, tallest to shortest, just different things like that. And you just type in 1 through 4, depending on the description there. So definitely use your vocabulary for that and you should be just fine. For activity 2, we are going to write the modes of transportation. It says which would you use to get to each of the places. So figure out what the places are and then just put the transportation in there. Would you go by car, by bus? How would you get there? Do stick to the vocabulary list and also include the definite articles. That's just good practice. Include el, la, los, or las with those. So for activity 3, you are going to use your vocabulary, and it's set up to where you shouldn't have to use any of those more than once, but just look at what the different categories are. Number 1 is aire, that means air. So which 3 things can be in the air? It would not be a train. So just pick out which one makes sense there. So for activity 4, it says, follow the directions given, start at the X, and write a complete sentence to say where you've ended up. So my suggestions on how to do that sentence, el lugar es el, that would be the place is the, and then whatever the place is. Estoy en el or la, I am in the whatever. So I would say use one of those. You don't have to, but that would simplify things a little bit if you did. So activity 5, that one looks pretty familiar. That's just another one of these maps. It says complete the dialogue with the words. So they've given you words. You shouldn't have to reuse any answers there. So use your vocabulary list. Word reference is an excellent thing that you can use. For activity 6, here's my big note. I am looking for you to try your best. The way I've got this set up is for you to do it before you learn some of the grammar stuff from this chapter. So again, I am not expecting it to be perfect grammatically. I just want to be able to understand what you're saying. All right, so use verbs that you know how to use. Tell somebody go or turn, and look those up on word reference if you need to. So grammar, I'm not as worried about. Do use some vocabulary from the chapter and use verbs, and you should be good to go there, all right? So let's look at activity 7. It says that the directions are wrong, so you're supposed to take these directions and correct them. So what I want you guys to do in activity 7, rewrite those directions, just write it exactly how it has on there, but then change whatever is incorrect. So if it says turn right, but you should have turned left, the only word you need to change in that part would be right to left, or maybe go straight instead of turning. So do that, rewrite what they've got and change it. For activity 8, okay, this is just, putting this in sequential order. So figure out what these mean first, and then obviously using your vocabulary list, and then just put them in order in a way that makes sense. All right, activity 9. For this one, you've learned commands now. You're going to match the situation with the appropriate command. So like one of these says, it's hot in here, so maybe you should open the window, please, or something like that. So just whatever makes sense there, and you're good. For activity 10, this is where we are going to, read the situation. For example, in the model, it says, no me gusta esta foto. I don't like this photo. So then what they put in the response there was no la mire. So we've learned commands. If you have not watched the commands video, you need to go back and do that. A, to get your notes in your notebook, but also B, so that you know how in the world to do the rest of these activities. So I don't like this photo. Okay, don't look at it. Now these are going to be formal commands. So the verb here was mirar, to look at. We changed it to mire because it's a formal command. And then we did use a direct object pronoun talking about the photo. So that is also in the commands directions, or the commands video. So check that out. Keep in mind word order. If it's going to be a negative command, no, then your object pronoun and then the command. If it's going to be positive, it's the command with the object pronoun attached to it. If you need to review that, if you don't know what I'm talking about with these, with the word order, go back and watch that video. Find me on the video conference this week, and we'll get it straightened out. Activity 11. Let's see. Imagine that you need to explain to a visitor. Okay, so for this one, you are explaining to a visitor. So this is going to be formal commands. You're giving them directions on how to use the area's public bus system. Now in Clinton, we do not have a public bus system. So you are going to use your imagination to come up with what you should do. For example, maybe you should get a ticket so that you can get on the bus. Or maybe you should pay the driver. Maybe you should get on the bus. Maybe you should read the signs or something like that. But notice I'm keeping these all fairly simple, mostly 3-word things here, but these are going to be using formal commands. That's the thing from the chapter that you're practicing. So activity 12 for this one, again, formal commands, and this can be usted or ustedes if you're saying you should do whatever or you all should do whatever. So let's look at it. In the example, you're trying to study in the library, the people around you are talking. So they said, no hablen, por favor. So again, you're in the library, everybody's talking. You say, hey, you all, don't talk, please. So figure out what your verb is going to be. Here we went with hablar, and then we put our ustedes command ending on there. Don't talk, please. So you do not have to use a direct object pronoun in this unless you just want to or really need it. But if you do, keep in mind the word order on that. And if you're not sure, go back and watch the commands video. So let's look at activity 13. Okay, so this one, you are going to need to read the sentence and decide whether what the phrase is, whether this is a sentence or a command. And then you're going to conjugate that verb depending on whether it's a sentence or a command. So I've given you 2 examples here. Let's look at these. Mi hermana y yo. We know that's my sister. And I. And then it's hablar. So that's speak. Por teléfono, on the phone. So speaking, am I telling someone speak or am I just stating a fact? I'm stating a fact here. So if I'm stating a fact, either way I'm going to take off that AR, but I'm stating a fact. So I'm just going to use my simple present tense endings that we learned back in Spanish 1. So it's an AR verb for nosotros, that is hablamos for the simple present tense. Now for the second one, hace mucho frío. That means it's very cold. And then my phrase is cerrar, which is close. La puerta, the door. Por favor, please. This word please is a little bit of a hint. Hey, do this for me, please. So, it's very cold. Shut the door, please. I'm not saying somebody else is shutting the door, please. I'm saying, hey, you, shut the door, please. So for that one, the conjugation, let's see, it says formal or informal. Oh, I didn't give you a subject here. So cerrar, I'm going to go with usted. So if it's usted, remember you go with the yo conjugation. So the yo is cierro. Then take off the o. For usted, it's going to be the opposite ending. So cierre la puerta, por favor. So that's what you're doing on that one. If you have not watched the command video, you're going to have to do that before you do activity 13. And if you are still confused, find me on the video conference. Let's take a look at activity 14. So 14, on this one, these are all positive commands, and we are practicing putting the direct object pronoun in the right place. So on our example, it says abra la puerta. It really helps to figure out what you're saying here. So abra is from the verb abrir, which means to open. It's conjugated, so you're telling somebody open, and then la puerta is the door. So we are going to take this phrase, and instead of saying open the door, we're going to say open it. So you do not need to change the command. You are going to leave that command how it is, abra. And then la puerta is feminine, so my direct object pronoun would be la. So then for a positive command, remember I put that on the end of the word, and I need an accent there so that we know it's abrala. So we need that emphasis to still go there. Watch the commands video if you have not already done that. How to do direct object pronouns is on there with it. Okay, activity 15, this one is pretty straightforward. It's just using the preterite conjugation of ir. If you've not watched the video yet for that, find it. It's a pretty quick one. So every time it's going to be the preterite of ir. So mi amigo, we're saying my friend went to the stadium yesterday. So my friend would be he is él. And we are working on memorizing our conjugations. Fue is the conjugation that goes with él in the preterite tense. So that's all there is to it. Activity 16 is pretty straightforward. Use the vocabulary list. If you look at number 1, it says fui a la escuela el lunes. So I went, escuela is school, lunes is Monday. So you will find Monday, and you will see if I went to the school on Monday. Underneath lunes, it says la escuela. I'm thinking that is probably true. So pretty simple. Activity 17. For this one, you are going to use ir for all questions. I don't like the way that the directions are written on this one. It says write what you did during the following times. We don't know how to use any other past tense verbs other than ir and ser. So we are going to use ir for every question. The directions really should say to write sentences about where you went. So I want you to say, yesterday I went to whatever place. So if you wanted to say, yesterday I went outside. You don't have a lot of options for where you're going right now. Maybe you can just make it up. So yesterday I went. You guys know I went is fui. It's going to be fui every time. Yesterday I went. And then afuera. Now, if you want to say, I went to the pool, I'm going to remind you of something. To the pool, a la piscina. If you went to the restaurant, that should be a el restaurante. But remember, anytime you would say a el, you put those together to say al. Fui al restaurante. So that's the one thing to keep in mind for activity 17. All right, activity 18. So for this one, you are just using your vocabulary. In number 1, it says, I went to school yesterday. I went to school yesterday. Every one of these sentences start with yo fui a la escuela. So that means I went to school. Then you're just looking for which one of those words means yesterday. So not a lot to it. Use your vocabulary list. Maybe even pretend it's a quiz and go ahead and hit submit and see how you do, and then fix it. So keep in mind with any of these, I am doing video conferencing every school day, and I send a remind text for that. Hopefully I will see you there.